All right, here we go. So you just listened to "You Raise Me Up." It is the Josh Groban version. Josh Groban version, sung by me, and it's a very special song to many people. I sung that for somebody, and yeah. So here we go. Got just a few topics today. I'm gonna try to. I'm on a different mic, so sorry. I know you're probably hearing a lot of squeaking, and if I keep moving around in this chair, it's gonna keep making noise. But I apologize, but just having some technical difficulties with my other setup, so I'm just on my backup on this. Let's see, it is a Blue Yeti X, black one with all the nice lights on it. It processes by itself. But I'm not being sponsored, so there's no point in me bigging them up. I already wasted a minute. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few things, but I'm going to start off with Ryerson and the vaccine situation and the job situation in Ontario. Now, what's happening is that there are many students who are unvaccinated at Ryerson University in Toronto, and they have decided first, they asked, like many other jobs did, I guess they're asking their staff and students to present data, facts that should exempt them from being vaccinated and allowing them to go into schools or workplaces. And with Ryerson, it's crazy because, you're paying for your education and they're going to deregister you if you do not get vaxxed. And as a matter of fact, I think at this point in time, it is the 11th of November. No, sorry, let's say 11th. No, it's the 24th of November, 2021. And if you're not vaxxed by now, they're kicking you out of school. So you can come back again at another time and you can try to graduate in a few years or something. If of course doesn't change or if it's still offered, whatever it is. I believe and I think that that is absolutely ridiculous. I think if they do not want people on campus, fine. But you should not disallow people from finishing their education. So the fact that they started in September with paying customers, online, and many didn't want to be online at that time, but they are now. And I'm believing that if they're going to let people do it and they force people to do it this September to January, then I think that they should allow people just to finish the year, because there's many people who are out of the city. There's many people who have other obligations. There's many people who are trying to do two things at once, you know, like parents, like people with jobs that, everybody knows when you go to college or university, you don't necessarily go to every single class. And if they're just concerned about people in the building, then, let the people stay home. You know, the professors, most of them have agreed to continue to present their lectures online or to tape them. You have the course outline, you have the course documents, you have course videos, and you can still do things with other staff or other students by way of the internet, just like it's been happening right now. So the fact that they're saying that, you have to be vaccinated, you're not vaccinated, get out. Obviously, you have enough to run your programs and run your school, because otherwise you wouldn't have done that. That's all I have to say about that. There's obviously way, it goes against human rights. There's bills that, tells us that people are not allowed to put things into your body. You have the right to refuse. As a individual, you can say, I want this or I want that. If you don't want it, it shouldn't, like they never said at the beginning that if, by January, if you're not vaccinated, we're kicking you out of the school. So I believe because you started the school year allowing people not to be vaccinated, allowing people to be online, I think you should stick to that, at least for this year. Because as a matter of fact, Ontario has just um, reinstated or decided to reinstate the emergency um, setup where it gives the premier the right to close or open or shorten times or put down the number or diminish the numbers that can gather together and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm saying if you're still allowing the premier to do these things, then I think you should at least allow citizens to still get their education, even if they're not going to be in the building. Now, I understand that people have internships and work experiences and stuff like that, and you don't want to be sending your students into places and getting those community partners infected with anything. But there are ways around it. If that was your one issue, then maybe you would have to say, okay, so if you want to do that portion of your program, then maybe, unless you can find somebody willing to allow you to do your internship online, like at least make it possible for people to succeed. This is one really big issue that I'm having, is that people are saying they want you to succeed. People are saying that they want to change the name of Ryerson University because the man possibly had slaves, or he possibly had something to do with the residential schools. Well, then, like, don't do something over here for namesake, literally, and then on this side, don't allow people to succeed. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, it's hypocritical. But if you don't believe me, you're probably right. And that's what you're listening to right now. Sorry, guys. The reason why is because I started off saying this and I recorded my opening as usual. And then I screwed up. So then it's kind of like in the back of my head, I already said that stuff. So yeah, welcome to You're Probably Right podcast. I am your host, MCM, and you're welcome at my house anytime. Figuratively speaking, of course. Don't show up in my house. All right. So that was the one thing I wanted to say about the Ryerson situation. And I don't know if all universities are doing this. I don't know if this is backed by the Minister of Education. So I'll just leave it at that because that's all I know about it. Now, one thing that I think is probably affecting a lot of people right now. Have you looked for a job lately? Or have you applied for a job within your company lately for advancement, for a higher paying job, for a different avenue in your organization? Well, then you might find this interesting, or you might understand where I'm coming from. Now, whatever happened to the days when you could go into an interview, you could explain your education, where you got your education from, the types of things that you learn, the most of the stuff that you could possibly remember that would be pertinent or important to the job that you're trying to be hired for. What happened to talking to you and getting to know the person you are and whether or not you will fit in? You have a couple people from management, a couple people to document and take records, a person in the interview who you might be working with or working under. It doesn't seem to be working that way lately. I don't know if it's just me or the people that I know, but what's happening is you're going into these interviews and they're more concerned about how well you can memorize a textbook and how well and timely can you offer up these buzzwords that you may or may not understand. Everything is BIPOC, intersectionality, First Nations peoples of this, that, and the other of North Americas, and Anishinaabe, and I didn't even say it properly, I'm sure. My apologies. But the ABR, the anti-black racism, the whole bunch of different little buzzwords that you're supposed to say, that you can say that, yes, I'm down with OPP. And then magically, if they don't have somebody already lined up for the job, then they might give you the job. You know, that's the way it's working now. They care more about rote memory than they do of actual understanding and learning. And, as a matter of fact, I'm going to put this down so you kind of get what I'm saying here. Sorry for the noise, of course. Nice if I can spell it, huh? Let's see. Is it good or bad? One of the primary disadvantages of rote memory is that it doesn't allow for deeper understanding of the subject. Only the bare facts, you see what I mean, of the subject, such as the vocabulary, the multiplication tables, are memorized or understood. So you get that as you can understand multiplication, or you can just memorize your multiplication. It's a big difference. Rote learning also does not allow for complex connections between previous and new knowledge. And that's the whole point, is that they're only checking what words you know. And their applied knowledge, they still want you to give them the rote buzzwords. And it's sad because there's a lot of people who are just not going to get those jobs anymore. And for instance, where is it? Like, what is the point of credentials or accredited institutions? You understand? Whereas, a person will say that, I have my degree from Ryerson, or I have my degree from U of T, or I have my degree, or I have my diploma from Humber or Seneca. They're accredited institutions. Therefore, like, they're not just Johnson and Johnson University, or they're not McDonald's University. They're accredited. That means that they know that there's a certain amount of courses and type of courses that have to be given to each pupil. Therefore, if they keep up a half decent grade point average in these courses and graduate, then that's supposed to say something, And, what happened to the value of your references? Can't my references, I understand that you're not going to ask somebody to be your reference if you suck at a job. You're just going to omit it from your resume, or not ask this person, or, I understand people will just get a friend to this or that. But I mean, if they're calling legit numbers of places that they know in the same industry that the person's applying, chances are you're going to be able to get an honest evaluation, especially if there's any type of partnerships in the companies, and anything that's similar in the companies. Somebody's not just sitting there lying and saying, yes, this person is amazing, you should hire them. But I think between getting the information on the person's resume, or from their diploma, or from their credentials, saying that this person went to this institution, they had this grade point average, and even that's loose, because I know loosely should be used only because there are those jerk professors, of course, or those malicious ones, or those spaced out ones who would mess up your GPA on purpose or not on purpose, whatever. So I understand, but there's still weight to people graduating from accredited universities or accredited institutions. Otherwise, you shouldn't even ask, right? And references. Okay, Maybe you make that whole thing with the references more of a tight, stringent kind of a process, so you know for a fact that people really worked at these companies and really did a good job. And then, not to mention, thirdly, you bring in the disabilities. You say our company cares about people and encourages people with disabilities, people who are from the BIPOC communities, people who are First Nations. We encourage you to come. And not to mention, do we encourage you, but we actually ask you on many of our surveys, do you have a disability? Now, how many of you, because I do, how many of you have a disability, you know, something that you're living with? Maybe it's, mental, or maybe it's even physical, but you've been able to kind of skirt around things without bringing it up in most situations. With algorithms and with what's that word? With analytics and algorithms, who says that, like, why would I want to give you that information unless I know that there's some kind of tokenism, really? Now, put it this way, and I'm just being very simple with it. If you tell me that I'm going to get hired to do this job for a certain amount of money a year, and I might have a leg up, possibly, if I say that I'm Black, I might tell you. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't know. They have these surveys. Do you have a disability? I sit there and I ponder. I look at the company and say, I wonder why they want this information. Do they want this information because they need to hire a certain amount of people with dyslexia, or a certain amount of people with a certain disability, or a certain amount of people who look a certain way, or a certain amount of people who are from this certain place? Like, it's like a Rubik's cube. It's like you don't know which way you need to turn the situation. I just want to get in and give me a job, please. But everything is so difficult now. You don't know if you giving too much information is what's stopping you from getting the job. Or you don't know, well, you do know in most cases, if you don't have all the buzzwords right, you're not getting the job. And that's just the reality. And for somebody like me who has a disability, and somebody wants me to list off a bunch of textbook words, some that are just being entered into, into society as main words that you need to come up with in every interview. You got to throw the word pedagogy in there somewhere. You got to throw on BIPOC or ABR in there. You got to throw on intersectionalities. You got to throw on cisgender. You got to throw on so many random words that you don't even know if you're coming or going. And then you sit there, now that everything's online and you're interviewing, you have to sit there talking to people who are just taking the information in and recording it, and then they're going to throw it into a computer or throw it to one person. And did they say all these words? How do you rank people by the amount of buzzwords that they possibly said in an interview to say whether or not they're going to be good at a job? You're going to be hearing more about this, I guarantee you. Not only from, a small dude in the podcast who is experiencing some of this stuff, but you're going to hear about this in mainstream soon. You're going to hear bigger people griping about this soon, because it is a social issue. Hopefully you understand. Hopefully I explained it properly. Society is turning, and it's like we're allowing it, or we're causing it to turn on us. I was listening to the Dark Horse podcast today, and just a little snippet, and they were talking about Plato's cave. And they're talking about, are you on your feet or are you on your knees? I didn't even listen to it fully through. You can go and you can check it out. They're talking about it. But it's like, are you on your knees or are you on your feet? Basically, are you hustling and surviving, or are you surviving and you're living? Like, how are you making it? Just think about it. Like, they sometimes talk about people's that most people saying most people are two paychecks away from living on the streets. Um, do you think you're free? Especially you people in Canada. Do you feel free? The fact that now you have to wear a mask everywhere you go, and you're wearing the mask, and when somebody takes a mask off, and especially if you had a new job in the last year and a half, it's like shocking when you see people's mouths and cheeks and chins just because you haven't seen them. They don't even look like how you think they look because all you're seeing is eyes and a voice. And then every once in a while, somebody will take a mask off of their car, or they'll want to rub their face and they'll take their mask on. It's like, who is this stranger? Like, it literally looks like a total different person. Are you free? Because everybody just took this situation with the masks and said, okay, you're right, we'll do it, and we're doing it. And Lord knows, I was making a joke to people saying that I think they're gonna let us take the masks off by March 2022. But now I'm not so sure. What has this world come to? And now I'm going to talk about something totally different. But first, I just want to say, through the information that people have these days, we've learned how to judge character. We've learned how to judge intelligence. We've learned how to teach intelligence. We've learned so many different things over the years. Whether you're a person and you go by what the philosophers like Plato or Socrates or Aristotle would say, or maybe you're more of a person who likes the psychologists and you listen to people like Skinner or Piaget, geez, I can't say the word, Piaget, or Sigmund Freud. It's just like, although there's so much social media, it's almost anti-social media. We're not able to work things out in life. You're not able to look at something and say, hey, this is acting like this, and they said this, and therefore it's this way, but they can change. And I don't know if you know what I mean. It just seems like we're locking everything in, and Lord help you if you make any mistakes. I believe that many of the people who make the rules nowadays are standing on the shoulders of giants, like the aforementioned. But those giants oftentimes were standing on the backs of slaves, which made them taller. Think about it. Did you think about it? I mean, even all these people that I talked about or I mentioned just now, many of them came way after the Bible was beginning to be written. And usually you get to stand on this side or that side, depending on what you believe or what you have to say about the Bible. But yet now what's happening in the society, everything is upside down. What used to be good is bad. What is bad is now, or what was bad is now good. In many different facets of life. And I'm not going to go into those, but you can think about it. And where are we going? Because it's the social justice, it's the humanities that are dictating how everything should go now. Everything is like emotion. Everything is being dictated by somebody or a group of people's emotions. There's no real technical. There's numbers, but it's like they're fudging the numbers. It's just like what I was telling you about the jobs. It's like they're encouraging all these people to apply to the jobs, but then they're moving the mark. They're moving the goalposts, as some would say. Now, I'm just going to touch on one more thing. And actually, two more things. I'm going to say this small little soliloquy. Little soliloquy. Jeez. I'm like tongue-tied tonight, guys. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm tired. But I'm going to say one more piece of advice for young men, young Christian men, young Christian women. I think mostly the young men looking for a mate. And after I talk about this, so just in case you want to tune out because this doesn't concern you or you don't care, I'm going to talk about it's not really, I guess it's an article, but it's the top 5 issues facing Black Americans, Black North Americans. Some might be more north or more south of the border, depending. But first, I just wanted to say this. And I'm giving advice, but I'm not giving advice. So just something to think about. If you call yourself a Christian, a child of God, a person who's trying to live like Jesus, I'm going to ask you to please forgive some of the words. Sometimes the words pop into my head and they might not be the way I would normally talk, but it just seems right sometimes. But it behooves you to look for a mate who is approaching or at your level or higher than your level of understanding of the Word of God. And not only the understanding, but the adherence of it. The scripture says, 2 cannot walk unless they agree. That's what the scripture says. And you can look at it in so many different ways. You can look at it from business. If you have one business partner who wants to spend all the money, and you have one business partner who wants to save all the money, you're going to run into a lot of conflict. If you have one person in a marriage, say, who likes to be clean, and you have one who likes to be dirty, you're going to run into problems. If you have one person who believes in hell, and one person who believes that there is no hell, and when you die, you're just dead, you're going to have a whole bunch of problems. It's just reality. You can argue against it, you can fight against it, but it is reality. It says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. The bottom line is you're going to turn to be like one of you are going to turn. And chances are, whoever has more hand or who has the upper hand in the relationship or who wears the pants in the relationship tends to be the person who is going to pull the other. But just to let you know that can switch at any time. So the best thing, again, if you're going to raise children, what religion are you going to raise them as? If you are, and listen, I understand that there's people who just, it doesn't matter. My husband can believe in what he wants to believe, and I'll believe it. Like, really? Well, then how? Like, first of all, I don't know what your religion is, but I mean, as far as Christianity is concerned, it's point blank. It's right there. I know that people think that it's up to interpretation, but what I am talking about are people who believe the Bible from cover to cover. Yes, those crazies who believe that the earth was built in 6 days. The world was built in 6 days. Yes, those people who believe that Jesus died on the cross and he rose again. These are the people. I'm not talking about the people who haven't even read a book of the 66 books in the Bible. I'm not talking about the people who have only heard what the Bible said from some guy on a podium or some guy on a TV touching people and healing people. No, I'm talking about people who legitimately, intimately believe the Word of God to be true. If you're one of those people, I'm saying, do not look for people to be joined to who do not believe what you believe. It will not work, period. Or maybe somehow it will work in a sense, but then know that the person that you love and you care about the most is going to hell. And there's nothing you can do about it. But that's just a little small school thought. All right. Okay, let me close this out now. This was supposed to be a short podcast today. Top 5 issues facing Black Americans. Let's see. Number 5. I almost want to start at number 1. Why do people always do number 5? Let's go to we'll start at number 1. Okay, I'm not gonna read everything this guy has to say, but I'm gonna give him one paragraph to convince me in each one of these. So hopefully these are real meaty paragraphs. Okay. Problem number 5. Victim mentality. Nothing holds someone back more than seeing himself as a victim. Why, you say? Because a victim is not responsible for his situation. Everything is someone else's fault, and the victim sees little chance of improving his life. How can he get ahead if someone is holding him back? Well, you can fight, but all this makes the victim unhappy, frustrated, and angry. I'll go with that. The victim mentality doesn't help you. You got to see yourself as a person who has choice. But I mean, it goes back to Plato's cave. Are you on your knees or are you on your feet? Is it better to live on your knees and die on your feet, or is it better to die on your feet and live on your knees? Lack of diversity. Number 4. Let's see. Blacks repeatedly demand an honest dialogue or a debate about race. But how can there ever be an honest dialogue about race between blacks and whites when there is virtually no honest dialogue between blacks and blacks? It is hypocritical. And if a black doesn't think whites are ultimately responsible for black people's problems, they're labeled a sellout, or a race traitor, or Uncle Tom. I'm going to read a little bit more, but this one's funny. As long as the type of groupthink exists, that type of groupthink exists, race reverends of Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson types will continue to be celebrated while independent black thinkers such as Professor Thomas Sowell, yes, I was thinking about him, and Walter Williams will be shunned. And if you listen to Thomas Sowell, I don't know about Walter Williams, but he is under the belief that they need to get rid of welfare. They need to allow black people to fight, kind of like what differently, but sort of like what Malcolm X was saying about just give us our peace or let us get our peace and stop giving handouts and let's see what happens. Number 3, let's see. Problem number 3, urban terrorism. I guess you already know where this is going. As just about everyone knows, but too few talk about publicly, in majority of in majority black cities, violent black on black crime is rampant. The Department of Justice study from 1980 to 2008 revealed that blacks accounted for almost half of the nation's homicide victims and more than half of the offenders, 52%, really. All whites only being 13%. Okay. Only being 13% of the American population. Let's see. I'll go with that. Of course, that doesn't really get us up here in Canada because we don't have any mostly black cities or areas. Well, everybody has their little areas, but not enough to really make a difference. Problem number 2, going down to 1 here, of course. Proliferation of baby mamas. Okay, I know where this guy's coming from. Okay, the oh gosh, the disintegration, of the nuclear family has led to the astronomical increase of single mother households. According to Moynihan report in Moynihan, I guess it's Moynihan report in 1965. Sorry, I do have a disability. No, just throw that out there. In 1965, nearly 25% of black children were born to unwed mothers. The report's author, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, sorry, I'm not saying his name properly, said this was a disaster in the making. He was, of course, vilified by so-called black leaders and their progressive allies. But he was right. Today, out of wedlock births rate nearly jeez, out of wedlock births rate in nearly 75% and even higher in some urban areas. Now, the only thing that I'll say about that one is it also goes back to what Thomas Sowell was saying, and that is the welfare system. Because we all know, not all of us know, some of us who have experienced or seen the welfare situation, if you have the mother and father in the same home with children, you get a lot less money, or you get no money if one of them has a job, or if they both have let's say minimum wage paying jobs. If they put those two in under one household, chances are they qualify for next to nothing. And there are sadly a lot of, for lack of a better term, occupational mothers out there, knowing that if they have a certain amount of kids, they get a certain amount of money. And that's a whole nother situation all by itself. But I think, yes, they should encourage the families to stay together, husband and wife. Instead, people got to do little funny business like demand money off the books and stuff like that from their baby fathers so that they can raise their kids. And they don't stay in the home because then the woman can't qualify for as much money. So that's part of the problem as well. Lastly, problem number 1. Unquestioning allegiance to so-called progressive policies. I can think of one. And it got a lot of rise after the Trayvon Martin and the George Floyd incidents. Unwavering loyalty to progressive liberal policies is the primary reason these dire conditions persist. It both makes them possible and perpetuates them. It's no coincidence that progressivism is the common thread that binds predominantly black cities where single-parent homes, failing schools, rampant poverty, and crime predominate. All I'm going to say is this pretty accurate. Now, of course, I just read little pieces of it. If you want to go and check it out, you can check it out at assets.ctfacets.net. Jeez, good luck. Just type in the top 5 issues facing Black Americans, and it's by TALEEB Starks. There you go. Just put that in and you should find it. Again, it is the top 5 issues facing Black Americans by TALEEB Starks. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Listen, I appreciate you coming out and listening. So, what I'm going to do for you now is I'm going to embarrass myself by another song that I'm going to drop on you. Let's see, what should I put on? Here it goes. All right, take care. Till next time, I ask that you would share my episodes. This one was a little bit of a bumpy ride, but there are a lot better ones. I think it's the microphone that's throwing me off. Funny enough. Blame it on the mic, huh? Forget about it. You won't understand. Maybe you will. All right, take care till next time. This is your Probably Right podcast, bidding you adieu.